What if the real danger to civilization isn't evil, but something much quieter? Not cruelty, not hatred, but people simply stopping the effort to think. It sounds strange at first. After all, we usually imagine history's worst moments as the result of villains with bad intentions. But what if the greatest disasters in human history weren't caused by evil masterminds, but by ordinary people who stopped questioning? Imagine a respected scientist suddenly promoting harmful misinformation. A teacher who once inspired curiosity begins repeating extreme ideas without examining them. A caring parent starts making decisions that put their own children at risk because they accepted something they heard online without questioning it. These people aren't monsters. They're intelligent, they're well-meaning, yet somehow they end up supporting things that contradict their own values. This disturbing pattern was studied by the German thinker Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who warned about something he called the danger of stupidity. And what he meant by that word was far more unsettling than low intelligence, because the kind of stupidity he described can affect anyone, including you, including me. Before we go deeper, ask yourself something honestly. Have you ever believed something mainly because everyone around you believed it too? Hold on to that question, because the answer might reveal more about human nature than we'd like to admit. A lesson from a famous experiment. In 1961, psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted one of the most controversial experiments in history at Yale University. Volunteers were asked to participate in what they thought was a study on learning. Their task seemed simple: deliver electric shocks to another participant whenever that person answered a question incorrectly. With each mistake, the voltage increased. But here's the shocking part. The person receiving the shocks was actually an actor. The screams of pain were recorded. The real purpose of the experiment was to observe how far ordinary people would go when instructed by an authority figure. The results stunned the world. About 65% of participants continued administering shocks they believed could be fatal. These weren't cruel people, they weren't psychopaths, they were normal individuals who temporarily gave up their own moral judgment because someone in authority told them to continue. This is exactly the kind of human behavior Bonhoeffer observed during one of the darkest periods in modern history. The world Bonhoeffer witnessed. Dietrich Bonhoeffer wasn't an academic philosopher writing theories in isolation. He lived in Germany during the rise of the Nazi regime. Born into a highly educated family, he grew up believing strongly in rational discussion and education. His father was a respected psychiatrist and neurologist. Everything in Bonhoeffer's upbringing suggested that knowledge and reason would guide society. But then he watched something deeply disturbing unfold. As the Nazi movement gained power, many educated Germans, professors, doctors, clergy members, intellectuals, began supporting policies that directly contradicted their moral and religious beliefs. These weren't uneducated masses being fooled. They were thoughtful people who had somehow stopped thinking critically. Bonhoeffer struggled to understand how this transformation could happen, and eventually he arrived at a disturbing conclusion. From a prison cell in 1943, after being arrested for participating in resistance against Hitler, he wrote words that still echo today. He said that stupidity is more dangerous than evil. Why? Because evil can eventually be recognized and opposed, but stupidity is far harder to confront. A person convinced they are doing the right thing becomes almost impossible to persuade. What Bonhoeffer really meant by stupidity. When Bonhoeffer used the word stupidity, he wasn't talking about IQ. He meant something closer to intellectual surrender, the moment when people stop thinking independently and begin repeating ideas they've absorbed from their environment. He observed that conversations with such individuals felt strange. It was as if you weren't speaking to a person anymore, but to a collection of slogans and catchphrases that had taken over their thinking. And here's the surprising part. Bonhoeffer believed this condition wasn't primarily psychological, it was social. In other words, it often emerges when people become part of a group.
Individually, they might be thoughtful and rational, but inside a movement or crowd, their independence begins to fade. Decades later, psychology experiments confirmed exactly what he observed: the power of conformity. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch conducted a series of experiments on group pressure. Participants were asked to compare the lengths of lines on a card, something extremely obvious, but everyone else in the room was secretly working with the researcher and deliberately giving the wrong answers. The result? About 75% of participants agreed with the group at least once, even when the answer was clearly incorrect. They knew the group was wrong, but the pressure to conform was stronger than their confidence in their own judgment. This reveals something uncomfortable about human nature. Most of us believe we're independent thinkers, yet under the right conditions, many of us will abandon our own reasoning to avoid standing alone. Why this problem is worse today. Bonhoeffer witnessed propaganda spreading through newspapers and radio, but today the environment is far more powerful. Social media platforms use algorithms designed to show us content that keeps us engaged. And what keeps people engaged? Often it's emotionally charged information, not careful analysis. Studies have shown that false information can spread significantly faster online than accurate reporting. Not necessarily because people want to lie, but because dramatic stories feel more interesting and satisfying than complicated truths. Over time, algorithms begin feeding users more of the same ideas they already agree with. This creates echo chambers where beliefs are constantly reinforced, and inside those environments, questioning becomes rare. Why our brains fall into this trap? Modern neuroscience suggests our minds evolved to prioritize speed over accuracy. For our ancestors, making quick decisions could mean the difference between survival and danger. Trust familiar voices, follow the group, avoid conflict. Those instincts helped humans survive thousands of years ago. But in today's information environment, those same instincts can make us vulnerable to manipulation. When people feel overwhelmed or uncertain, they often prefer simple explanations, clear villains, clear heroes, clear answers. Reality, however, is rarely that simple. The courage to think independently. Bonhoeffer believed escaping this trap requires something difficult. He called it a form of costly grace, the willingness to think independently even when it's uncomfortable, unpopular, or risky. And that kind of thinking requires practice. Here are a few habits that can strengthen intellectual independence. First, expose yourself to opposing viewpoints, not to argue endlessly, but to test whether your beliefs can withstand scrutiny. Second, slow down before sharing information. A quick pause to verify a claim can break the cycle of misinformation. Third, get comfortable saying 3 powerful words: I don't know. In a culture that rewards confident opinions, admitting uncertainty can actually be a sign of intellectual strength. The price Bonhoeffer paid. Bonhoeffer refused to stand silent under Nazi rule. He joined a resistance movement and became involved in efforts to oppose Hitler's regime. For this, he was imprisoned. On April 9, 1945, just weeks before Germany surrendered, he was executed. According to witnesses, his final words suggested calm acceptance of his fate. His resistance wasn't just political, it was philosophical. He believed that when people surrender their ability to think independently, they surrender something essential about being human. The question that still matters today. Bonhoeffer left behind a challenge that feels even more relevant now. When pressure to conform becomes overwhelming, when questioning popular ideas becomes uncomfortable, when believing the crowd is easier than thinking carefully, who will stand firm? The answer doesn't depend on intelligence, it depends on a daily decision. To remain curious rather than certain, to search for evidence rather than comfort, to keep thinking even when thinking is inconvenient. A challenge for you. Here's something worth trying this week. Pick one belief you feel strongly about, then spend half an hour researching the best arguments against it, not to destroy your beliefs, but to test them. If they survive honest examination, they'll become stronger. If they don't, you'll learn something valuable. Either way, you'll practice the kind of intellectual courage Bonhoeffer believed was essential for a healthy society. Because the moment we assume we're immune to this problem is often the moment we stop thinking. So here's my question for you. What's one belief you're willing to question this week? Let me know in the comments. And if this video made you pause and reflect, share it with someone who values thinking deeply, even when it's uncomfortable. Because in a world full of noise, choosing to think carefully might be one of the most powerful acts of resistance we have.